The main subject of my research project was how have I, as an audience member, changed over the course of the pandemic. My habits have drastically changed over the course of the pandemic, and I'm a very different person than I was when it began. My research project, and myself in general, have numerous biases, the biggest of which are the fact that I am a Canadian-born male. Both these facts have had a heavy influence on how privileged I am when compared to others. While I grew up in the lower bracket of middle class, I had a stable and together family, I had food to eat, I had a roof over my head, and I never had to struggle. This lack of struggle has also had a heavy influence on my perception of the world. While coming from a mixed race background, I have never been discriminated against, missed out on opportunities, or felt scared due to my race. Finally, as a left-wing person, I have a very distinct left-wing bias. The field site for my report was my bedroom in my apartment right here in Ottawa. At my desk is where I wrote all 10 of my field notes for the purpose of this project. My study took place in the beginning of 2021 as we approached and now have passed 1 year of pandemic life. I believe that this is one of the most unique contexts in modern human history, and certainly unlike any other time I have been alive. This is a time that will not soon be forgotten. As I mentioned previously, data was collected through a series of 10 field reports, with writing prompts from Dr. Strangelove to encourage our writing. I have included pictures of field reports 4, 7, and 10, so you can kind of get a sense of the reports and the writing that I did for the purpose of my project. Data was organized through a coding process. My final coding chart, demonstrated on screen now, was composed of 7 categories: media, devices, people, feelings, companies, politics, and platforms. The number of times a word corresponding with one of the categories was noted and listed here. Patterns that appeared in my research project were my far too frequent usage of Twitter and Reddit. This transitions well into the theme of social media in my study. My audiencehood is entirely on social media. I use social media for my news, my entertainment, my mindless content, everything. I noticed that even though the number of platforms I used decreased during the pandemic, I still spent just as much time on social media. My study revealed to me that I engage more meaningfully with Twitter content than I do Reddit content, which really surprised me at first before I realized just how true that revelation was. I went into the study with the mindset that I was learning about myself, which I did. While there were some surprises, I wouldn't say there were any anomalies. There were 2 main findings I had, and after completing my study, I actually changed the way I live my life in response to these findings. Firstly, I learned just how thoughts about inequality took over my brain. I was completely unable to disassociate everyday normalcy from the thought of inequality. What I mean by that is I was unable to treat myself to some ice cream without feeling guilty that there are people right here in Ottawa who cannot even afford healthy food. This mindset was unhealthy, and I can gladly say that I am no longer overtaken by these thoughts. Secondly, I realized that because of my left-wing views, my Twitter and Reddit audience landscapes have become echo chambers for left-wing propaganda, one-sidedness, and fear-mongering. This meant all I saw were posts about how the right were evil, terrible people. However true or untrue that may be, it was unhealthy for me to see constant negativity and toxicity. I can happily say that I have taken steps to reverse this stuff now. I have subscribed from subreddits that I realized were toxic left-wing, and I now follow some coherent conservative MPs on Twitter so I can see both sides of issues. The research project taught me a lot about myself and my role as an audience member in this society. My findings are something that I will take with me for the rest of my life.